Hey, what's going on? It's Kevan Kenney on KROQ, and we are being joined today by CHVRCHES.
Hello.
Hi.
What's going on, guys? We're about 7 days out from when we're taping this right now, and when you're watching this, from the new single being out and available everywhere, Over. And I want to kick it to the lyrics first, because that's kind of what stuck out to me. And what I loved about it is it almost reminded me of a song like a Hotel California by the Eagles, where you just immediately place the listener, right? And you're almost like narrating this moment for them. And it's such a powerful way to open a song. And I'm curious if that was top of mind at all when you guys put pen to pad.
Wow. I mean, that's quite a lofty comparison. I'm like, wow. No, that's wonderful. But I don't know. I feel like we rewrote the lyrics for this so many times, so I'm glad that you like them because we suffered deeply to get to this point. But yeah, I guess I like that. I don't know. The feel of the sonics of the song felt like it wanted something more classic in that way. So it was nice to write more of a kind of like narrative type thing than what we would normally do.
Well, it's so interesting to hear you say that you went back and forth, you changed the lyrics so many times because it is a narrative-driven, song. What would you go back and forth with so much, or what was there so much, sort of?
I think I was making it too gloomy, maybe.
Oh,
It
really?
was quite. Yes, there's a version, an iteration of it that's more in the kind of screen violence tone, sort of. Yeah, then we were talking about it, and everyone's like, I don't know if we need to have a lyric in it about drinking bleach. I don't think we have to have that. And I was like, but it's good. No.
I mean, there was a
But-
good lyric in
But not for
itself.
that song, maybe.
Yes.
So, yes, I feel like we ended up. But I guess that's how it goes sometimes. Sometimes it'll happen really quickly, and then other times you're like, you have to rework something a few times till you get the correct fit, I think.
I remember it when Lauren finished the lyrics for that. I was literally listening to it in my car, and it started evoking lots of pictures and like lots of like tapping into emotions in a way that it hadn't before. I was thinking, oh, okay, she's really onto something here, in terms of matching it to the feel of the melody and the feel of that production. As I don't know, it kind of felt like you nailed it in that respect. And
Because you're driving, and the song's about
well,
driving.
no, not that. Yeah,
You're
I
like,
mean,
"Ah,
sure.
see what you
Sometimes I
see."
drive.
I am
Oh,
driving currently.
No,
It's not a very environmentally sound lyric, is it?
no. Well, it depends what kind of car, I
That's
suppose.
true.
There you go. Martin's in his car. Goes, this song's about me.
Yeah.
He felt seen in that moment.
I feel so attacked right now.
So just taking us inside the church's creative process, if you will, who points out to you in the studio or wherever it happens that, that might be a little too gloomy? Is that Oscar Holter who
think it's-
produced it, or?
Most of the time we kind of self-police that. But I do think that, yeah, when we were sending versions back and forth, I think that the drinking bleach down on the beach line was quite... was a little troublesome for him, I think. But, yeah, I think most of the time you just know... I don't know. I guess that's what's wonderful about songwriting, is there is just that intangible thing that you know when it's right, and you know when it's like 70% right, and it's not quite correct. So, yeah, normally I'll go away and I'll think about it, and then I come back and change it.
To be fair, it was self-editing. You were
Yes.
there was that I don't think anyone would get away with telling Lauren what to say and when, which is I respect it. But I guess you were bringing your A game in your own time, in a lot of ways.
Well, you were sort of, joking before about how that lyric specifically felt a little bit like the past project, right? Screen violence, and in the press release that went out, right, it said you guys are saying goodbye to that era. And I don't know if that was just semantics, or if is there a sentimentality as an artist when you do sort of move on from a quote unquote era?
I think so, for me, for sure. Like, I think I can be overly nostalgic about certain things, and especially the screen violence, because we worked on it. I don't know, I feel like we really for once nailed that. Every part of what we were putting out felt like it was part of the same project, and I don't think that we've done that before. In the art and the videos and all the imagery around it felt like it really fitted properly. And the shows have been so fun, and it was just really lovely to be able to play shows again and have the shows be a bit more theatrical and a bit... I don't know, it was fun to be able to play with those things. So part of me is quite sad that there won't be... At some point, there will be the last show where I put on the last amount of fake blood, And I don't know. It's horrible to watch off. It takes ages. It's terrible. Everybody else gets to sit down after the show and like have a drink and talk. And I'm like, right, I'm going to go tidy up for like 45 minutes. But I don't know. I think at some point it'll be sad that that'll be the end of that. But the beginning of the next thing, whatever the next thing is.
But you sort of touch on like a really fascinating part of the process, because there is, like, from a commercial or a business standpoint, a touring standpoint, et cetera, there is like a finite end to an era, right, of a project, right? You've toured it, you've promoted it, you've sold it, et cetera. And then sometimes that doesn't always necessarily correlate with like where you're at artistically or emotionally, right? Where do you find that ever, like, being pulled or pushed in two directions where you want to maybe express, you still have things to express from that era, the screen violence, but you're starting a new one? You kind of know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, I definitely do. And I think, I don't know, like even when you're singing a set list of songs that have been around for a number of years, I think sometimes a song will renew its significance to you because of just something that's happening, or you kind of rediscover your connection with the songs, and I think that's always really nice. But yeah, I guess at this point we're like, well, Screen Violence came out in 2021 and we finished making it like end of 2020, I guess. So like now when we're playing it, I'm like, oh, these feel like old songs, even though they're not really, but they feel like they are.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I think it's like, yeah, I think that's the terrible thing about bands. As soon as you've finished recording it, you're like, right, that's done. What's the next thing? And then you tour it for 2 years. So I don't know, your relationship with it changes, I think.
It is fascinating to watch your relationship with the music change. Like, because album campaigns in the old mold are like, they can be, like Lauren's saying, they can be 3 years long. And if it's gone well, sometimes they're even like longer than that. So you're a very different creator from the end of 2020 to where we are today, like the beginning of 23, for example. So it's kind of exciting to be able to put out music that's just standalone, or like points to maybe, who knows what it points to. There's just no like greater conversation beyond, we love this song, so we put it out. So it's kind of this is all very new for us and exciting.
Well, and you're speaking to the fact that Over is a standalone song at the moment, right? It's not tied to a larger body of work necessarily.
No, and
No,
that's,
we haven't done enough work
yeah,
to have
yeah.
it be.
We've been touring so much, and that was the thing. It was like we were sitting on this song that we were all really excited about, and then we're looking at a lot of touring and going, well, we could shelve this for another 2 years or a year, or who knows what amount of time, or we could just like be excited about it. And Oscar was really excited, and he wanted to work on it, and when he turned in his like revamped version, everybody had a bit of a moment and everyone got excited, and we thought, why the hell not? Let's just do it.
Well, I mean, from the outside looking in, I don't know if the irony is lost on you guys, but when you guys dropped Lies, right? Wasn't it a kind of a similar situation where you didn't even think it to tour or anything? You just wanted to drop it, see if it could get a response online, and here we are, right? So much has changed, but then so much is the same. Where you're putting out a song. I mean, obviously now on a much grander scale, but just kind of, you believe in the song like you believed in Lies back in the day.
That's the perfect counterpoint to this moment. Like, it's the closest thing to this moment that I can imagine, like, and since the beginning of our band. That's a really interesting observation.
Yeah.
It was the last time we did it.
And I guess not that it wasn't really a real band then.
Yeah.
Kind of like, we'd never played a show. We had like, we'd done a handful of things in the studio, but there wasn't, I guess it was like a self-fulfilling thing then. We're like, oh,
Yeah.
has
Were
to be a
those
band
the
now.
Shark Week days?
Yeah.
They were the Shark Week days, yeah.
You're so
I know.
well researched, by the way. This is amazing.
Most journalists don't do research. That's not true. Some of them.
That was for anyone who doesn't know, that was the name of our fake band, our fake band name that we made up because we were lucky insofar as there was already attention on us from Lies, kind of blown up online before we'd ever played a show. So we came up with this idea that we would make a fake band name and just turn up and play a few gigs to get good before anyone knew that we were out playing live. When it lasted about 2 minutes and everyone was like, that's that bad. But it went okay.
Well, you were talking about, Martin, you were saying how, your relationship to bodies of work changes, right? And we're coming up, of course, it's like you're probably going to get asked this a zillion times this year, 10 years since the debut record, right? And the cliche is, does it feel like 10 years? So I won't ask you that. But What is that record? What did that record mean to you then? What did it represent, more importantly, to you then? And what does it represent to you now?
It's something that I'm only now beginning to think about. Like, actually, the perspective of, I guess, 10 years is such a round number. The who I was as a person then, where I was in life then, has everything about my life has changed in inconceivable ways as a result of that album. And like I have just this really, really deep gratitude for everything that happened around it, everything where we are, the fact that we're having this conversation right now. But the when we were in it, I had no idea, like nothing at all. It was every day was just about like staying alive and trying to make it feel normal to be doing all this crazy stuff that we were doing. That none of it was normal, and now with the perspective again, you can go, yeah, that really wasn't normal. This is every project I'd ever been in that I loved. This felt different, and now I know we're still kicking, and it feels like a genuine rebirth moment. So now when you said that about Lies, you really got me, because I'm going, oh yeah, that was the last time we had a moment that felt in any way like this. It's really cool.
Very profound.
Oh, yeah,
There you go.
Would you sort of echo that, Lauren, in terms of just your memories of what that meant to you then? And because I don't know if you look at it like I almost think of it as somebody who's never made an album, almost like a relationship, right? You might, date somebody and it means something to you in 2013 and you think it means this. And then as you go on, you learn, oh, that actually represents such a different thing. And I understand that differently now. I'm just curious if that album at all.
Yeah, I mean, I was kind of a baby, really. Like, I was like 23, 24 when we started the band. And I think when I look back on that stuff, I'm like I've been out of university for like a couple of years. And like, I don't know, when I meet people of that age now, I'm like, oh, right. Like, I didn't have any. And there was a lot, I don't know. I just remember feeling like there was a lot of pressure on me all the time, which I think I look back and I'm like, I wish that you could have just been like, it's going to be fine, and enjoyed it. But I think, yeah, not that I didn't enjoy it, but I think we were just like, oh, okay, we'll do this now. Okay, we'll do this. All right. But I think, yeah, ignorance is probably less naive. Being that naive, I think, was good, because if we could really take on board all the things that were happening, then I think that would have just overwhelmed our brains. So I think better to just be muddling through it, but I wish we'd been a bit more present for some of it, I think.
Totally. Just fast forward to present day, getting back to the new song Over. You guys have a large history of self-producing. Obviously Oscar Holter, if you're watching this and you don't know, I mean, he's worked with The Weeknd and BTS and Charlie XCX and Coldplay. So, he's well established. But was there any anxiety of kind of like handing the steering wheel over to Oscar as, self-producers like you guys are?
I mean, no. Oscar is obviously a god of production, and he was really cool about Ian and I playing a bunch of stuff on it. And the first thing we did after the song was written, and it was written in a session, like a one afternoon, just the bones of it were written, like a melody and a kind of production idea that eventually found its way into the CHVRCHES universe, like from just something that might have just been a me and Oscar thing. We were friends and we were working together, but it didn't become CHVRCHES till like further down the line. But he was really cool about batting it back and forward with Ian and I on a production level, so that he knew of our music, and he said he was a fan, and that was like overwhelming in the first place. But being able to have our moment in the studio and really work on it and send it back to him, and him for a lot of that stuff still to, especially the guitar stuff, to have made it to the final record is like an amazing feeling, to have collaborated with someone that's on his level.
I wanted to ask you about the hook on the song, Wake Me Up When It's Over. When you wrote that, of course it'll mean something different to every single CHVRCHES fan that listens to it, but when you wrote that, what were you thinking about?
Well, because I think the temp lyric was I just can't believe that it's over, or something. I can't remember where it was.
Why can't you see that it's over?
Maybe.
Which does
like
not
that.
land.
Those are all different sentiments, though.
Yeah.
Really, yeah.
And I
It
think
does
we
not
were like,
land like yours at all.
we knew that over was going to be, like, that was the hook, but we were like, how do you get to that part? So it was a bit of a puzzle figuring it out. And yeah, I guess that's It could be read as quite gloomy, or it could be read as like, well, but there's positivity on the other side when you get to that section, maybe.
Well, I read it as like a restless anthem, you know?
Mm.
And I don't know if I was projecting or not, but you have lyrics in there, you know, about feeling everything, feeling nothing simultaneously. And I think there's this almost like post-pandemic fog that people, you know, are sort of experiencing right now, where there is this anxiousness, but then there's also sort of this embracing of like, nothing matters, let's have fun. You know, but then if nothing matters, then what does matter? You know, it's like I feel like there's a lot of push and pull in people's spirits these days, and I thought that's what the song was
We've
spoke
all
to, at least for
gotten
me.
quite existential, accidentally, I think. Yeah, and I suppose, yeah, our hope is that, like, I think a lot of people will be able to relate to that as a concept, given where we're all at in the universe. I'm like, it'd be really nice if we could just flip a switch and then we could go back to thinking everything's fine and everything's great, but we know too much now. Do you think that that's the case?
I get it. And as an appreciator of the Lauren's lyrics, I totally identified with it in that way, exactly the same way. And you can't like unlive the last 2 years or since 2020. So we all know what that feels like. So it kind of feels like a little bit ominous, even though maybe we're getting out of it. And like you say, yeah, the instinct to party and like have this cathartic moment is there, but there's also this weird kind of feeling of tension, because that, you know, almost in a post kind of traumatic way, like when
Totally.
when the pandemic first hit, like we were all scared. You know?
And I do sleep when I'm depressed. I was talking to my partner about that, and then I was like, yeah, sometimes I just really look forward to going to sleep because then I don't have to think about anything. And he was like, oh. I think it's depression. And I was like, is it? Maybe. I don't know. But I was like, it's peaceful to not be worrying. I can't be worrying in my sleep, but then I do as well. So
It's a hell of a form of escapism, you know what I mean? Now, looking ahead, of course, you're going to be hitting the road with Coldplay, which is a huge tour. And, you know, of course, Oscars, you know, there's a nice throughway with that. Have you ever, like, met Chris and the guys? Have you worked with them before in any capacity?
I guess you met him in passing, maybe?
I
No.
actually met him
festival.
once at a festival, like years and years ago, and he gave me some amazing advice. It was just after our first album came out, and it was going really well, and he said, like, hey, nice to meet you. He was lovely, and he didn't have to be. He said, don't sleep on your second album. Like, whatever you do, just get in there and get it made.
Wow, Lauren's going to hate the sound of that.
And it was like,
I need more sleeping. I need more. When will I get my depression naps?
and that really set us on, like, because what he was saying was, you've got all this momentum, and if you strike fast and with the same, you can keep building on that momentum, maybe you'll be here in 10 years. And look at us, here we are. We're about to open for them, which is the craziest thing in the world.
Isn't that crazy? It's great advice, though. You see so many artists, they get a hit on the radio, and they think that, oh, they crossed the finish line. It's like, dude, you got in the game.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That is when you put pedal to the metal.
Oh, that's so true.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm excited for those shows, though. I haven't seen them do like a headline set like that in that capacity. So, yes, I think I've always been quite a gig crier, but I feel like watching people at shows now feels different than it did a few years ago. So I'm worrying. I'm worrying about the level of sobbing already of watching people watch that show. I think I'll have to have a big sob and then a nap.
There you go.
Your cardio is going to be insane by the end of that tour. The stages
no
are massive.
On me. No pressure on me at all to match up to that guy.
And then one other question, you know, of course, right now Over is what we're really excited about. And you worked with Robert Smith on Screen Violence, and that was, I believe, the sole feature on that record. Did that open your eyes to wanting to collaborate? Of course, you had a massive hit with Marshmello, right? Probably a different style of collaboration, but are there artists you look forward to, you know, or have you batted around ideas of working with other artists this year on the new music?
I don't know. I guess, yeah, I feel like once you've got Robert Smith, you can't top that now. I feel like
Is that
to
the
me, I'm
takeaway?
like, just hang it up. Don't ever bother. Don't bother. Like, but I think our manager's like, no, hearing this information, you're like, what do you mean? No features ever again. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, that was such a great experience to, like, just as fans of his work, we were so baffled and excited that he wanted to write with us on it. And yeah, it was just such a genuinely wonderful experience. He was so generous to us in all ways. So I don't know how we top that. I don't know how we top that.
I honestly don't think we can top that. But
Did you guys really write with him, like in the studio?
No.
Was it like an
Pen
email
pals,
thing?
We
yeah.
were. It was all done over email.
Really?
Like the whole thing. We never. The first time we ever spoke with voices was like 2 minutes before we did our first bit of promo for the song,
Oh wow.
which is fascinating. It was like, are we pen pals with Robert Smith? Is this like the most bizarre like fantasy where you like write to Robert Smith and he like gives you a bunch of advice and then sends back his. He's like, do you want me to play some guitar? I'm like, yeah, we want you to play some guitar. He sends back his guitar and it's amazing. We did this kind of like cross the Atlantic collaboration with, to me, like one of the last living true like legends that in my like musical universe anyway. So yeah, we'll never top it, but it'll always be case by case, that stuff. If something feels right and it seems like fun.
Yeah. Or if
Yeah,
Robert's got
I'd
round two in
just-
him, you know.
You know,
Well, I mean, if it's Robert, damn, like
whole album.
yeah,
Yes,
like whatever
exactly.
he wants.
That's Churches
That'll be
5,
the
that's
headline
it.
we use.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, guys, thanks so much. And Over sounds awesome. I'm sure we'll be hearing it on KROQ.
Oh,
So
thank
thanks
you.
for stopping by.
Yay! Thank you for having us.